Yes, East Perth supporter. I didn't warm to the Eagles, and I was working in Fremantle a bit in '95. And I was writing about football, so it made sense to jump onto the Dockers. And I was also also the other thing that made it easy is I got offered a job editing the Docker, the members' newspaper. So I did that. The first edition of that was actually in 1994. So there was a lot of photos in there of blokes with their shirts off from other teams and that sort of thing, because there weren't that many photos of players with their jumpers on. So I was away, but I didn't really barrack for a VFL team. I'd barrack for Carlton when Sid Jackson was there and that sort of stuff. So I was primed, ready to go.
What did you like about the club?
It seemed to me to be a little bit different. It was what it was asked to be was a bit of a contradiction, really, to be different but to be a traditional club, which maybe there was a feeling that some of the other new clubs were a bit on the glitzy side or something. I don't know what that meant, but it was down here at Fremantle Oval. I knew a lot of the players because I was such a fan of the waffle, and it just appealed to me, and I also moved to Fremantle in 1995 as well, as it turns out. So I'm almost a Fremantle person now, I suppose.
You think they've embraced the Fremantle culture pretty well now, do you think?
Being at the grand final last year in Melbourne that's the best time that I've had, and I've enjoyed. I never call myself a long-suffering Fremantle supporter because I've enjoyed it all the way through. But being at the grand final, being in Melbourne last year, wherever you'd go, you'd be down a little alley somewhere and some bloke would walk past in a Dockers scarf, or you'd be in a little cafe and there'd be a bloke in a Dockers cap, and there was purple everywhere, and we made a big impression, I think, because of the good-natured supporters we had, loud and passionate and all that sort of stuff, but also just good-natured, and people in Melbourne really took to us.
And the club's flying now, but when you reflected on those 20 years, were there things that could have been done differently, do you think? Are there a couple of things you identified?
Yeah, of course there were. But it was it was interesting to analyse. One of the things I went through was just what was available to Fremantle. And one of the criticisms was that there were too many Claremont players chosen because Jarryd knew the Claremont players and so on. But really, there were not many gold nuggets in the waffle then that they missed out on. I think the most successful player perhaps that they missed was Daniel Chick, of all people. So, there were mistakes then. I spent a lot of time looking at trading and drafting and realising just how important that is. And we made our mistakes. There were some things have been mythologised a bit. There were mistakes. There's even the Trent Crode of 2001, giving up a number one draft pick. Cameron Swab admits in the book that it was he regrets that, but you can see why he did it. And I remember after the diabolical 2001 season, the club champion award was held here under a tarp marquee on a horrible night. I was the official photographer then. I've almost had as many jobs as Ben here. And there were about 1,500 people there. It was amazing. After we'd won 2 games for the season, and part of the buzz then was that we'd got Trent Crode. So, you can see why these decisions were made. You can look back and say that was a mistake. That's the way it goes.
Is the McLeod story true?
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, they didn't. Jarryd McNeil, who was there, basically said yes, everything that's in the Andrew McLeod book is correct. Once again, there's the immaturity of the club at that time is shown through that basically they knew this guy was a good young player, but nobody had actually seen him play. So, and he apparently was just not keen to come here at all. So
Buy the book, Tomo. It's all in there.
So he could have come, but it's one of those ones.
He could have, yeah.
It wasn't to do with an earring or something like that.
Well, yeah, there's a bit about jewellery in the book. But yeah, I shouldn't give things away, then you won't buy it.
Les, can you reflect on that first photo shoot and the statement you made at that time?
Yes, so I was I'm pretty sure it was at Troy Park in Atterdale, that the first team photo that's on the back of the book, with the players all clambering up on the rock. I was there. Tony McDonough and Annalise Frank took the photo. David Zampatti was there doing the getting people onto the rock. Peter Bell went to the top, I remember that. And I had a little disposable camera, and I took a photo of the action, which I really should have gone into the book, because I've got a photo of Ben sort of walking off after they'd come off, and Ben going towards me, and I took this photo. And I was thinking then that I really should get myself a real camera at some stage. But I also thought, I remember that day thinking, one day I'm going to write the history of this club. I was just finished Gravel Rash, my previous book, arguably the greatest book ever written, about football on the goldfields. And I thought my next book will be, well, I didn't actually think the next book would be a history of the Dockers. I thought I might do something in between, but I thought one day I'll write the history of the Dockers. So, I was pretty pleased when I was asked to do this.
Les, can you describe the journey? Just how would you describe the journey? Someone said in this one sentence, how would you describe Fremantle's journey so far?
I think there's been a lot of people doing their best. That's the way I've read it in the people I've spoken to. I think, and we are now a big, respected, pretty powerful sort of club with a lot of supporters. So I reckon it's been a pretty successful journey, really.
Is it fair to say, though, that it wasn't until the current regime came in that it really started flying, that was the turning point?
Yeah. There were times when it did feel as though it was flying, and I look back to the games mentioned earlier, those 1995 games at the Wacker. There was a win over, there was a loss to Essendon, there was a win over Geelong and a win over Sydney, where it was just sensational. And I really felt then that we were going to make the finals in 1995, but it didn't happen. But in those days, I remember having this strange feeling at the footy. I wanted the ball to go into our back line, because I wanted to see how Scott Chisholm and Dale Kickett and Stephen O'Reilly and Quentin Leach would bring it out. It was so exciting. I'd never known that before. I was on the board in 2006 when we beat the Premiers twice that year. So if we'd made that grand final, maybe something would have happened. But there's definitely this is the most successful era, and certainly things seem to have got together nicely now. Yeah.
And the Freo mob, did actually play a reasonably significant role in the club or not?
I don't know. Though it was a loud time. I wasn't involved in the Freo mob, but I was around, sort of reporting on them. It was like the 1997 march to when there was suggestion that Fremantle should go to Subi. Both of those things sort of galvanised people a little bit, so they had their role, but so all these things are significant. I suppose.
They got a chapter.
Yeah, no, there is a chapter, because it was a significant thing, and it caused a change at board level in people being able to vote, members being able to vote for board members, which is.
You think that's important in a footy club, to have democratic?
It is. I don't know if our members think that way, because only, I think it was 9.7% of the eligible members voted last time in a fairly high-profile event. But of course it's good, and it certainly doesn't do any harm. It hasn't caused us any harm, and other clubs, I think everybody's voted on, so I don't think there hasn't been a problem.
Les, Luke teased us with a media release, and he mentioned the Damien Drum era. CEO didn't get on with the coach. Sound like towards the end the players were a bit disillusioned as well. How would you describe that era, that time?
There were a couple of times in the Damien Drum era that I would have voted to have a statue of Damien outside Fremantle Oval, because he had very few wins, but he had some significant ones. first Derby win, first win at the MCG, and I just happened to have gone over to Melbourne that weekend when we beat Melbourne, round 10, 1999. So he had some significant wins. He tried something, it didn't work. It was 2001 was just a horrible year, but I don't know how the players felt. Some of them loved him. People like Troy Cook loved Damien Drum. And I had a really good interview with Damien at Parliament House in Melbourne. The bells rang halfway through and he had to leave. Then we had to continue the interview down on Collins Street or somewhere later on. He still feels pretty positive about things, but yeah, he did have a very fractured relationship with David Hatt, no doubt about that. That's been well documented. But he left a bit of a legacy of not only those great wins, but also of a time where we brought in some good players into the system.